Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another legal breaking reporting video analysis update. Let's get into our morning report by NPR. Before we begin, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy, and hit the bell icon, as well as the all notifications option. It's completely free, does not cost anything. Let's get into our morning report.
Won solid victories in the New Jersey and Virginia governor's races, among many others. NPR senior political contributor Ron Elving joins us from Milwaukee. Ron, thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be with you, Scott.
How do you read what you think a lot of voters are saying?
The common message was that they wanted to see more positive change in their own personal circumstances, more focus on prices and jobs and economic futures, and the message was quite clear across state lines in voting groups, not just New York and New Jersey, California and Virginia, but in less noticed races in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and even Mississippi. And yes, blue cities and blue states were voting blue, but voting groups that had been trending for Trump and the Republican Party in those states stopped trending that way. Younger voters, non-college voters, Hispanics, and other people of color. So we have reached the first turning point in Trump's second term. And this is no longer the summer of Trump carrying all before him, testing the limits of his office with no one to oppose him. Voters have now weighed in. The courts are pushing back. There are internal divisions within the Trump coalition, and even some of his supporters in Congress are looking for room to maneuver. So Republicans need to decide how they run and win without Trump on the ballot to bring out his portion of the electorate.
In the end, is it the economy that counts?
We don't have the usual government numbers because of the shutdown, but we have private agencies measuring people losing their jobs, and some of their reports suggest we are nearing recession-level job losses. The University of Michigan Consumer Confidence Gauge, which is a national measure, is nearing a low point. And then there's the new buzzword of the year, affordability. A Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll conducted in late October found that 7 out of 10 Americans say their grocery costs have gone up over the past year, and 6 out of 10 say the same for their utility prices. The president, though, sees things his own way. Here he is talking to reporters about a Walmart Thanksgiving bundle and seeming to equate a certain holiday special with the state of the economy.
Walmart just announced it 2 days ago. 25% cheaper this year will be cheaper to have Thanksgiving than it was a year ago under Sleepy Joe Biden.
What the president doesn't mention is that the Walmart Thanksgiving special has significantly fewer items in it this year. More of them are store brand, not name brand items, meaning they tend to cost less. It's a classic case of shrinkflation, where the product gets smaller.
So after this weekend, the shutdown will be 40 days and 40 nights, the longest in history, getting longer. What are you watching for in the coming days?
It's going to get still worse. People are going to have trouble getting those food stamps because with courts trying to restore full benefits and the administration saying it will comply, even as it appeals that decision to the Supreme Court, all of the confusion will take time to sort out. The air traffic control system was already stretched dangerously thin before this, so we're seeing some airports in chaos, and there have been 1,000 flights canceled. It's hard to imagine the Republicans in Congress making a deal at this point without Trump driving the bargain. And it's hard to imagine getting it done without the House coming back into town in Washington into official session. And right now, Speaker Mike Johnson is still refusing to do that. Mindful, no doubt, that it would mean swearing in a new Democratic member who was elected 6 weeks ago, making it quite likely that the House would vote to release the Jeffrey Epstein files that Johnson has been blocking.
NPR's Ron Elving, very good to talk to you, my friend. Talk to you next week. Take care. It's been over 7 months since President Trump enacted those sweeping duties on goods from nearly every country. And one of the questions before the Supreme Court this week, who's paying them? NPR's Juliana Kim joins us. Juliana, thanks for being with us.
Happy to be
I
here.
wanted to make sure that I ate that
Have we seen
beef.
retail prices change in the past 7 months?
So far, prices have gone up, for coffee, clothing, furniture, things that are almost exclusively imported. But interestingly, only about 20% of the tariff burden has actually made it to retail prices. That's according to Erica York, an analyst at the Tax Foundation, a group that advocates for simplifying the tax code. She told me companies probably had stockpiles of products before tariffs hit, and also a lot of businesses held off changing prices while there was some uncertainty around tariff rates. But that strategy is beginning to change, and companies are starting to pass higher costs to the consumer. Economists say that's going to become more common in the months ahead.
What could costs look like in the next year?
So there's some different numbers floating around. The Tax Foundation estimates that if tariffs stay in place throughout next year, a household could face an average burden of $1,600. I also asked this question to Ken Smetters, the faculty director at the Penn Model. He estimates that existing tariffs could tack on as much as 1% to your average spending. So if you spend $50,000 a year, that's an extra $500. Keep in mind, prices are just one part of the story. Tariffs can also lead companies to slow hiring or cut wages, which isn't good news for an already weakening job market.
Of course, exit polls from key races this week show that the cost of living and the economy are the biggest concerns for voters. How do you think tariffs have played into that?
Tariffs have pushed prices higher, but for the most part, the increases have been fairly modest. That being said, many Americans are struggling with inflation fatigue. I spoke to Michelle Florio, a paraprofessional in New Jersey, and she says she's held off buying a new car and a mattress because tariffs have made them too expensive, and even her holiday plans are changing.
I have been giving baked goods as gifts for 53 years, and now I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. I'll do some. I certainly won't do as much.
This week, she voted for Mikey Sherrill, a Democrat, to be the next governor. Part of it had to do with local issues, but Florio says a big factor was choosing a candidate she felt really cared about the cost of living.
Now, of course, President Trump says that his tariffs will protect U.S. jobs and products and create revenue. Do we see that happening?
So our colleague Scott Horsley reported that the Treasury Department is collecting nearly 4 times as much tariff revenue as it did a year ago, and that equates to tens of billions of dollars. When it comes to American products, though, York from the Tax Foundation points this out.
When you demand more domestically produced goods, the prices of those goods rise.
She says that's already started to happen with some domestic products.
And then, of course, at the Supreme Court this week, the justices heard arguments over the president's authority to impose broad tariffs, and a decision could come soon. How much of the administration's tariff policy rests on what the court will say?
Yeah, a large share of Trump's tariffs are in question. The Tax Foundation estimates that if the justices decide those tariffs are illegal, a household's annual average burden could drop to $400 instead of the $1,600 figure I mentioned earlier. But even if the Supreme Court rules against the tariffs, York from the Tax Foundation says Trump still has other ways to add more.
NPR's Juliana Kim, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's 1996, and cowboy Warner Glenn is about to see something.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, Trump has to legally, by law, if the Supreme Court rules against the tariffs, which more than likely they will, he has to, by law, obey the Supreme Court. Now, the question is, will he? Will he not? Who knows? More than likely, he won't, because he's a criminal, and that's what criminals do. Let's get back into our reporting.
This weekend, an Israeli military court is weighing the fate of a Florida teenager. Mohammed Ibrahim is a Palestinian American who was arrested last February for allegedly throwing stones in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. He faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted. He is one of more than 9,000 Palestinians, including hundreds of children, who have been detained in the West Bank since the Gaza war began, according to official Palestinian figures. NPR's Lauren Frere met his family. Now, Lauren, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Please tell us about this case.
So last February, when Mohammed Ibrahim was 15 years old, Israeli soldiers came to his family's house in the West Bank in the middle of the night. This family splits their time between the West Bank and Florida. Soldiers pounded on the door, asked for Mohammed, said he'd been seen throwing stones. They blindfolded and handcuffed him, according to his mother, and took him away. I visited his mother, Muna Ibrahim, who's pretty distraught.
Yes, may no mother go through what I went through. We expected, like, he'll come out within 1 week, because he's a U.S. citizen. And we'll just keep waiting.
It's been nearly 9 months. In Israeli prison, Mohammed is not allowed family visits or phone calls. 27 members of the U.S. Congress have signed a letter calling for his release. U.S. consular officials have been able to visit him. The family says they told them he's suffering from scabies, a skin parasite, and has lost nearly a third of his body weight.
And what's he charged with?
2 counts of stone throwing, and the law says that throwing a stone or object at a person or property carries a 10-year maximum prison sentence. At a moving vehicle, it's 20 years. These penalties also apply to anybody who acts in concert with a stone thrower. And that's what Mohammed is charged with. He and 3 other teens were all arrested on the same day. I've seen some of the court documents which say that under interrogation, Mohammed admitted to throwing a stone near a road, but says he did not hit anything and didn't try to. I also asked the Israeli military about his case. They refused to comment specifically on his case, but said military juvenile courts in the West Bank are kept secret to, quote, protect the privacy of minors.
20 years for a juvenile accused of throwing a stone sounds pretty severe. Why are the penalties so severe?
Possibly to encourage plea bargains. Most minors in cases like these serve far fewer than the 20-year maximum. But stone throwing hits a particular nerve, Scott, for Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank. It was widespread in both Palestinian intifadas. More than 1,000 Israelis were killed altogether in those uprisings, and many times that number of Palestinians as well. Also, this is not the regular Israeli penal code. Mohammed is charged under special security laws that Israel imposed in the West Bank after those Hamas-led attacks of October 7th, 2023. I spoke to an Israeli lawyer, Leah Tsemel. She is not representing Mohammed, but told me how he's likely to be treated under those security laws.
Even a boy, even a younger boy than this one, is considered a security prisoner and will be limited and denied of any right, including food, real food, including family visits. Hardly they can see a lawyer here and there.
And that's in line with what U.S. officials and Mohammed's family say is happening. The Israeli military disputes that, though. In a statement, it told me Mohammed is entitled to a lawyer, all the evidence is made available to the defense, and that there is due process here.
And what's happening this weekend?
Mohammed has another hearing in Israeli military court tomorrow, Sunday. His father, Zahir Ibrahim, told me the past ones have been Kafkaesque.
This will be his probably 10th hearing, and their hearings here is not like America. You wait 9 hours, 8 hours, 7 hours. There's no time when his court starts. And you walk in, and they say next court delayed till next month. That's how it's been for 9 months almost now.
He's hoping the court frees him this time, possibly as part of a plea bargain, but it also could announce a conviction, a sentence, or keep postponing.
NPR's Lauren Frere in Tel Aviv. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Scott.
As always, subject to bad weather, delays, and illnesses add to the mix. This year is the ongoing government shutdown, which has already led to flight cancellations, and that's making some anxious holiday travelers reassess their plans, even with Thanksgiving still weeks away. NPR's Liz Baker reports.
Ah, the holiday traveler. Famously well-rested, calm, and polite. Am I right?
Air travel causes anxiety and nervousness among many people on a good day.
Aixa Diaz is a spokesperson for AAA.
Aside from the logistics and the money involved, there are a lot of emotions involved in travel. We travel because we want to spend time with people we love and we want to do fun things.
Especially around the holidays. AAA usually puts out a travel forecast before big days like 4th of July and Thanksgiving. This year, Diaz says that's going to be trickier than usual. More people might suddenly decide to hit the road at the last minute to avoid the airport.
Everything's so fluid. It's hard to chase the headlines with these types of projections.
Headlines like the continuing government shutdown, leading to unpaid air traffic controllers calling out of work, leading to the Federal Aviation Administration's decision to cut flights, potentially by as much as 20%. In other words, anything could happen by Thanksgiving.
Uncertainty is sort of baked into travel, and this certainly doesn't help. But I think keeping it in perspective, controlling what you can, and staying informed, don't be caught off guard.
Traveler Rebecca Abramson says she's staying as informed as she can, following the news and downloading her airline's app so she gets notifications of any changes.
Thanksgiving is actually like one of my favorite holidays to spend with my family, so I'm definitely a little worried about actually making it there.
The 22-year-old says she hasn't seen her Atlanta-based family for months. She'll do what she can. She's planning to take a half day off work and a rideshare to the airport, so she has plenty of time to get through security. Still, she worries that flight delays could cause her to miss Thanksgiving dinner, or worse, work at her new job the following Monday.
It's frustrating that the government can't figure it out and just do what they need to do in order for everyone to not have these anxieties.
Joey Cummings in Brooklyn has been a frequent flyer for decades, both as a passenger and as a recreational pilot. But this holiday government shutdown?
If I'm going anywhere, it's going to be on a train.
And that would be a long ride from New York to Alabama. But for Cummings, it's about solidarity.
I have tremendous regard for air traffic controllers. The average traveler that hasn't had the experience of being on the tarmac, taking off, talking to the tower, has no idea of the degree of responsibility and stress that they go through.
And maybe the best advice of all for coping with holiday travel anxiety, says Cummings,
be in a place of tremendous gratitude, especially at Thanksgiving.
A little focus on the reason for the season, and, adds AAA spokesperson Aixa Diaz,
chances are your flight's going to be fine. Most people will get to their destinations eventually.
A little dose of perspective before hitting the panic button and the cancel button. Liz Baker, NPR News.
The man of
Security says agents have arrested more than 3,000 people in Chicago since immigration enforcement actions began there in early September. Immigrants have been changing their routines because of the crackdown and sometimes missing work or school. And, as Adora Nimagata and Elaha Hertzler-McCain of Religion News Service report, some people are also staying home from church.
3 men sit on plastic chairs in a basement in Chicago.
They say Mass at their parish feels like home in Guatemala. But now they're too afraid of being detained by ICE if they go to church.
Decidimos quedarnos en casa.
We decided to stay home, go to work and rest. And on Sundays, it's better to stay at home because we have these dreams.
Dreams of making sure his daughter back home gets a good education.
These men agreed to be interviewed as long as we don't give their names because they fear deportation. And we agreed not to name their parish because they worry it could be targeted.
About a year ago, the men were in a severe car accident. One family member died.
When
we needed it most, they helped us a lot. And many sisters here from this parish came to us to lift our spirits when we were in bed.
The men tell us Mass is the one place they found community since coming to the U.S.
And not feeling safe enough to go weighs heavy.
It hits close to your heart. Well, it feels horrible.
After the accident, the parish's migration ministry helped them pay rent and living expenses until they could go back to work as roofers.
The volunteer who helped make that happen doesn't have legal status either. He came to the U.S. from Mexico 28 years ago.
Many of us are afraid to go to work, to go to a restaurant, to go to church, because everybody is afraid of encountering ICE.
We need to be honest as a country about why people are here and why they do not have documents.
Cardinal Blaise Cupich is the Archbishop of Chicago.
It's because we have failed, and our legislators on both sides of the aisle have failed to enact comprehensive immigration reform.
The Department of Homeland Security tells NPR that agents use discretion when enforcing immigration law at houses of worship, and agents need approval from a supervisor before taking action in locations such as churches.
In In September, St. Oscar Romero Catholic Parish on Chicago's South Side dedicated its 3-mile Jubilee pilgrimage to praying for migrants. Father Carmelo Mendez says mass attendance there is down about 40%.
We give them the opportunity to come to church, but if they don't feel comfortable, I believe God understands their concerns and their fears.
At the Mass after the event, Mendez preached that all people are equally loved by God.
Que Dios Todopoderoso, Jesús el inmigrante.
May God Almighty, Jesus the immigrant, Mary of the journey, inspire us to recognize that we are only passing through here. No matter where you were born, no matter when you migrated, our citizenship is not here, but in the presence of the Lord.
At a different parish in one of Chicago's northern suburbs, church attendance is down by about 25%.
The deacon there says the surge of federal agents has made many people scared to go.
We have a group of people bringing the Holy Communion to those people who are in fear for any deportation or any detention.
He's trying to fill in the spiritual gaps by ministering to people online and in their homes. Now, there's a ministry for people to pray the rosary on Zoom, and he brings food to some parishioners several days a week.
The church remains on high alert.
Before they start the masses, people watch outside the parking lot, the street, if they see any movement or any immigration officer. And before the mass ended, also they do the routine walking in the street to protect our community.
Despite these understandable fears, some immigrants are going to Mass anyway.
Back at the Guatemalan Men's Parish in Chicago, we also spoke with a woman whose adult children have been begging her to stay home.
I told them they weren't going to take that away from me.
She also asked that we withhold her name.
She used to attend Mass every day, but now she only goes once or twice a week.
Seeking God is the most important thing for me. They know that because they say that the church is my second home.
This grandmother came to Chicago 38 years ago and serves her parish with care, washing linens used at Mass.
She wants her kids to trust that God will keep their parents safe from deportation.
I tell them that's not going to happen. God is with us. Go to church more. Seek God so that you may feel more comforted by Him.
She's survived cancer and the loss of her home. She says she can't show weakness because she'll make her kids weak.
But sometimes she feels the weight of it all.
I have my children, and I don't see myself separated from them. No, I don't think I could endure that. I've endured a lot that has happened to me because I say my God has given me strength. But they don't have the strength that I have, and maybe not the faith.
God, she says, is her strength. For her, going to church is worth the risk. For NPR News, I'm Aleja Hertzler-McCain.
And I'm Adora Namigadde in Chicago.
This message comes from Vital Farms, who works with small American farms to bring you pasture-raised eggs. Click the play button to hear from pasture-raised egg farmer Tanner Pace, who shares the sights and sounds he and his hens experience on the rolling hills of his family farm in southern Missouri.
You know the feel of a good putt? The golf club taps the ball just right. It rolls gently toward the hole at just the right speed, and you can hear the crowd begin. Oh, no! The ball clips the rim, spins away. Or worse, it goes into the hole only to roll back out. What is this nasty bit of physics known as the golfer's curse, or the lip out? John Hogan is professor of applied mathematics at the University of Bristol. He's also the co-author of a new article published in Royal Society Open Science and joins us now. Thanks so much for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Do you play golf, by the way?
Not at all.
If I might begin this way, why was this important to you to find out at all?
Okay, so our study is all based in the area of mechanics, which is the motion of bodies under the action of forces. And increasingly, mechanics is used a lot in sport to try and understand phenomena. It's used in Hawkeye and tennis and that stuff. And I got involved initially in a problem related to basketball, and then noticed that there were great similarities to the golf problem. Mechanics is kind of like the ugly sister of a lot of mathematics. People said it's all been done and we should be doing quantum mechanics and celestial mechanics. But there's a lot of mileage in the old girl yet, and it's been a fun project.
Now, you've attempted to understand two main, what I'll call manifestations of the curse, the rim lip out and the hole lip out. Can you talk us through that?
Sure. When a golfer putts a ball, it rolls along the green. But when it encounters the whole rim and starts to roll along it, you get another rotation induced as the ball starts to pitch into the hole. So you have these two rotations which are going on. And basically the fate of the ball is decided by a competition between these two rotations. Now, when they exactly balance, the ball rolls around the rim at a fixed speed and it leans into the hole at a fixed angle. And this is what we call the golf balls of death.
Good Lord, that's a dramatic term.
And then if the rolling dominates the pitching, the ball can still go a little bit around the rim of the hole, but then it flies off onto the putting green.
Yeah.
And that is the rim lip out. But if pitching into the hole dominates, then either you have a successful putt, or you can have this very nasty thing called a hole lip out, where the ball is rolling along the inside of the hole now, and its potential energy, because it's high above the bottom of the hole, is converted into spin, and it has a sort of pendulum motion, and it comes back out again. It's a bit like a skateboarder when they drop into a half pipe or something. They come back out the other side.
Forgive me. All I do is play putt-putt golf with our daughters sometimes. Is this going to help me?
I would say that, certainly my golfing friends tell me, this sort of thing happens when you hit the ball too hard. So the first thing I'd say is don't hit the ball too hard. The second thing I'd say is, a golf hole, it has to be 4 1/4 inches wide. That's the standard width of all golf holes. None of these problems happen in the middle. So if you go there slowly and you get close to the center of the hole, you'll be fine.
Well, that sounds easy.
Much easier said than done. I'm in awe of golfers, how they imagine to get anywhere near the hole.
With respect, was this a problem that needed a solution?
I'm retired. I'm emeritus. It's a completely curiosity-driven thing. Having said that, in the US, golf has got an economic activity rated to be about $100 billion a year. And given that 40% of golfing shots are putts, more people could join in and get involved. Personally, I was driven from a curiosity perspective.
John Hogan's new research article is called, what a title, Mechanics of the Golf Lip Out. Practically trips off your tongue, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Family.
Montana is filled with natural wonders and famous tourist attractions. Yellowstone, Glacier National Parks. Not, however, B.J. Lederman, who writes our theme music. Lately, a new kind of wildlife tourism is also becoming popular, bat tours. Biologists are taking people out to see the creatures whose survival is in jeopardy. Yellowstone Public Radio's Kayla DeRoche has more.
On an August weeknight, Melanie Hall finally got tickets to something she's been trying to join for a while now. So she brought her daughter's whole basketball team, the Helena Shooting Stars.
Yeah, this is the crew. It's really just very cool to be out on the lake at Gates of the Mountains in the evening, watching the sun go down. It's very Montana.
Gates of the Mountains is in a canyon of steep, craggy cliffs on either side of the Missouri River.
I'm glad to be able to share it with, a bunch of 11-year-olds.
During the day, thousands of bats sleep in the cliffs, waiting for sunset to swoop down into the river valley for a meal. Boat tours like this one are a rare opportunity to see bats up close and personal.
First of all, this is a magical spot for bats.
Shannon Hilty, Montana state bat biologist, is one of the leaders of this tour.
It's just a bird. Don't get excited.
Montana's bat experts say they've been holding observation activities for roughly a decade, but have seen public demand surge over the last 5 years in response to an increased focus on conservation in policy and media.
Oh, look at this guy right here.
This sunset boat ride on the Missouri is one of the most popular tours biologists lead statewide in the summer. As the first few gray bodies skim the surface of the water, handheld devices most passengers were given amplify the animal's ultrasonic chirps. As more bats glide down, passengers gather at the back of the boat, watching them flit in and out of its bright lights.
You need to get closer. Don't be scared.
12-year-old Serena Light is here with her mom and sisters. She homeschools and is especially interested in bats.
I don't know if I've been on a boat, and I don't know if I like it, but I honestly think bats are pretty cool.
That's why 11-year-old Mary Grace Hall is here, too.
I really just think their wings are so interesting because they use their wings as their hand. They actually have 5 bones in their wings that work as their fingers. And I think they're just really interesting animals.
State wildlife managers are encouraging this growing interest to raise awareness about bats and their vulnerability to threats like disease. They say they save the agricultural industry millions of dollars a year by controlling bug populations.
And to know they eat grasshoppers and stuff is great, because I have a lot of those. So.
Chad Brown is on a walking bat tour at the Billings Zoo. Tickets for this one were hard to get also. Brown says he thought bats just carried rabies, and he grew up afraid of them. But he's not anymore.
We're going to try and build one of these bat houses, I think, and promote keeping them around.
Montana's bat experts are planning more bat observation activities and educational opportunities statewide. They say they're excited about the growing popularity of these tours as a tool to spread awareness about the nocturnal animals and their conservation. For NPR News, I'm Kayla DeRoche in Billings, Montana.
On the day of her 18th birthday, a girl named Noelle comes home from school and finds a letter waiting for her. She recognizes the handwriting immediately. It's from her mother, who had walked out of Noelle's life a decade before. In it, Noelle finds the answer to a question she's never stopped asking. Where did her mother go and why? This is the premise of Kiara Alegria Hudy's debut novel, The White Hot. Hudy's is the Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright behind works like In the Heights and Water by the Spoonful. NPR's Isabella Gomez Sarmiento recently caught up with her in New York City.
It's a crisp fall morning in Washington Heights when I meet Kiara Alegria Hudy's at a tall brick building near the Hudson River.
This is my writing studio. It's 1 floor above where I live.
There's a couch, a piano, and a giant pinboard where Hudy spent years organizing notes for The White Hot. The idea for the novel came to her over a decade ago while she was listening to Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill.
The thing about that album is she's this young woman. She's got all this anger. She's got all this rage. But she's also playful, and she's also curious and smart and spiritual, and I loved that kind of mess of big emotions that she had.
This was the inspiration for April Soto, the missing mother and anti-hero of The White Hot. At 26, April lives with her mother, grandmother, and Noelle, who is the result of a high school pregnancy. April's barely holding it together. One day, the Soto women are sitting down to dinner, and an argument breaks out. Plates get smashed. Over the yelling, April's abuela tries to sweep up the globs of rice and beans that have fallen on the ground. It triggers something in April.
She has this vision, oh my God, the women in this family have been sweeping their truths, their traumas, their sorrows, their brilliance under the rug for generations. This broom becomes this kind of gateway into, I've got to break this cycle.
April leaves. She walks out on her mother, on her grandmother, and on Noelle. Here's Hudy's reading from the letter April leaves for her daughter.
My anger had launched a voyage, and voyages were my birthright. There is a legacy of departure and seeking, Noelle, that is your inheritance too. Despite all the domestic play acting, you are born of journey women. Know this, remember this, when you step towards places you're not meant to go.
April wanders, searching for meaning. While communing with nature, she's reminded of Siddhartha, the Hermann Hesse novel about a man's quest for self-discovery. Like April, Hudy says she was fascinated by that book when she first read it. But she was also struck by the notion that it's a man who has the freedom to leave responsibility behind for the sake of an inner journey.
My mom was a very spiritual woman, but she had to find God, honestly, while doing the dishes, okay? Like, I wish my abuela could just take off and be free of all the caretaking she does.
So Hudy's gave April Soto that freedom. On her search, she finds caves, waterfalls, and jazz.
She hears the rage in Charles Mingus's bass playing. She hears this kind of electric life force.
She wishes she'd had the chance earlier to channel her own energy, what she calls the white hot, to figure out who she really is.
She's been a woman in service of others her whole life. And now she's something different. She has to be in service of herself because she has to stay alive. And she's really never served herself in her life.
April chooses herself over her responsibility to her daughter.
It puts the reader in the position of, can I forgive Mom? Here she is explaining, telling me about this amazing spiritual quest, this amazing adventure she had at the cost of me.
For Kiara Alegría Hudes, that's the big question. Isabella Gomez Sarmiento, NPR News, New York.
Hey, NPR listeners. Each year, NPR invites students from around the country to submit their audio stories to NPR's Student Podcast Challenge. Click to learn more and listen to stories from recent winners. Support for NPR and the Student Podcast Challenge come from Progressive Insurance. Get a quote online at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
The fishing ship is wrecked, leaving only the captain and a few crew members on a small island not fit for survival. They begin to starve and to hallucinate.
Still as the sky on the ocean, mute as the moon overhead. Me and Peter Balkin and you, friend. Everybody else is dead.
Through This Fire, Across from Peter Balkin is the new album from the Mountain Goats, and the group's frontman, John Darnielle, joins us now from Durham, North Carolina. Thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
The idea came to you in a dream?
It did. I have a little note app that I use to write down dreams in as soon as I wake up, because I've been told all my life you're supposed to do that. But often I go back to sleep, if you wake up too early, and I wake up a few times, and I looked in my note app one morning, and I had this dream that I was working on an album. There was no visual component to the dream. It was like a dreaming about being a farmer or something without seeing farming implements, just dreaming of being in a certain state of being. And the dream I had was I was working on an album, and that was its title. And I had written it down in the app, so I wrote it down on a piece of paper.
How did you get from the title to the album?
So the thing is, I then had to make sense of the title, right? Because your subconscious mind isn't concerned with your demand for rationality, right? And so the title was Through This Fire Across from Peter Balkin, right? I don't know a person named Peter Balkin. The whole album kind of explores trying to explain the title, right? Trying to sort of give it a narrative shape.
There wasn't any fire and brimstone left, just a hollow rattle inside your chest. Deep in the dark of our 45th day, it wasn't ever gonna go away. I began to understand the things the heat requires. Looking at you through this fire.
And I learned this from people actually at Second City in Chicago, how to flesh out an idea that's only got a couple of words or a sentence. Well, through this fire, okay, well then there must be, across from Peter Balkin, then there has to be a person speaking who's looking at Peter Balkin, so there's two people. Right? They're on either side of a fire. Where do we speak on either side of a fire? Either when we're camping or maybe on the beach, right? So I started filling in images, asking a lot of what then questions, right? And that's how I got to it.
And how did you ever get Lin-Manuel Miranda as a backup vocalist?
Well, we're friends. We exchange thoughts sometimes, and we're similar people in that we get very excited when we're working, and so I send him stuff. He's kind enough to listen to it and let me know if he feels like I'm in a good space. And so and he had heard a lot of these. Right, I'd be sending them along. And the morning I wrote "Armies of the Lord," I was very proud of it. I sent to him, and he, said it was good. And so when it came time to record, I thought we're going to be in New York, and I'll ask if you want to come up and sing, and he did.
Raise the flag and cut the cord. All aboard, that's going aboard. All aboard, all aboard.
You're also a novelist. What makes this into an album and not a novel, or at least for the moment a stage play?
Well, the dream. The dream was that I was writing an album, and that was its name.
Boy, you really are trying to remain loyal to this dream, aren't you?
Oh yeah, no, that was it. It was because it was capricious. It wasn't like I didn't say, well then by God I'm going to do this. It was just a sort of a lark on a day. It's like I said, well what if you actually did that? But I wrote Fishing Boat and I wrote Cold at Night. I was just started to think about the things, right? And then I wrote the first song and it was pretty good. So I wrote another one. But it was at the time, I almost never set out on anything thinking, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. I just sort of tinker. And then when something starts to take shape, then I want to be true to the first principles as long as I can.
Well, the first thing you learn is how strong you can be if you have to. And the next thing you learn is how cold it can get at night.
I think it's fair to say you're known for writing music that comes from some of your own troubled times.
The thing is, I think I'm known for that because of one particular album, but for the most part, there's two albums that do that, and the rest is mainly storytelling. But yeah, but the album for which I will be best remembered is absolutely about my adolescence.
Yeah, which wasn't easy. Is that a fair way to put it?
I worked with a lot of kids later who had it much worse than I did, so I don't want to, I lived with parental abuse, but I wasn't hungry, so that's, I think that's an important distinction. The fact is that I'm here and I'm 58, right? And so all that stuff, it's a terrible cliche to say that what didn't kill you made you stronger, but I've managed to make good stories from the stuff that I learned to live through, and to me, like, would I trade those experiences? I don't think that I would. I am who I am, and I'm happy with who I am, and that's part of my story. So yeah, so it's complex, I think.
I will turn these stones to bread, and all who hunger.
Live. The government shutdown has halted child care and food benefits for millions of low-income Americans.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, I had to skip that. I had to skip that portion because I've gotten flagged before for adding music that's not mine into my morning reports. So without further ado, let's get back into the morning report by NPR.
Americans, including Head Start programs and a pause in supplemental nutritional assistance payments.
I received my last one about the 4th of October, because that's when I get mine, but I have not received them. I've been calling almost every day on my food stamps since the 4th and still not received anything.
Nicole Hines is 38 years old. She lives in Davenport, Iowa with her grandmother and 16-year-old daughter who has an 8-month-old baby named Haley. Earlier this week, a federal court ordered the Trump administration to fully fund SNAP benefits for November. By Friday, yesterday, the Trump administration appealed this, and just last night, the Supreme Court issued an administrative stay, which blocks the order to fully fund SNAP while the appeal plays out. Some states have started giving payments to their residents anyway. Many have not. Nicole Hines doesn't know when she will receive her money. And while she waits, she's trying to get by.
My daughter needs nutrition. My granddaughter is needing all that. So I'm taking over the responsibility of what my grandma used to do, of making sure us kids ate before she did. I'm doing that to them now.
Well, do you ever go hungry?
Not really. I make sure, my daughter makes sure there's a little bit of food for me. Like when we make potatoes and gravy, she makes sure there's like enough that I would eat, because I don't eat much, but I eat enough to keep myself going.
Have you gone to any food banks?
I go to the one at North Park Mall, the River Bend Food Pantry. We can go once a week. Sometimes they'll have meat where we can get meat. Sometimes they have milk. Sometimes they have fruit. But it seems like some of their shelves are empty on some things because I know they're getting low.
Do you have to make choices in a given day? What you're going to eat, where you're going to go, what you got to do?
Sometimes not. Like, sometimes I'll make a menu for the week of what food we have here at the house. And that way, me and my daughter know kind of what we're making that night.
What do you make?
Sometimes I'll make chicken breasts that are dipped in eggs and then breaded with flour or breadcrumbs. And then I'll fry them and make mashed potatoes and gravy. And sometimes we'll eat green beans so Haley can have the green beans. And she's doing really well of eating green beans and potatoes. We're going to try her on peas soon.
If you have an 8-month-old that's eating vegetables, I'm in awe. Good work.
Yeah, she's doing really good with them.
She was in Head Start, but it closed?
Yeah, it closed October 31st. They gave us a paper saying that since the government was shut down, that Head Start had to close down until further notice. Me and my daughter were a little upset about it because Head Start was our lifeline. I could do schoolwork while Haley was at Head Start. My daughter could go to high school and get her education. With Head Start closing, it's hard to do anything with the single mom and single grandma because we don't have other places we could take her.
How's your daughter doing?
She's doing okay. I mean, stress of being a teenager, stress of having a baby, but she goes to school every day, sees her friends, they cheer her up. Sometimes she goes, Mom, can I go over to this person's house? She goes, will you watch Haley so I could at least, still be a teen? And I said, go. Haley's sleeping. If she wakes up and needs you, I'll call you. You can come and get her and take her with your friends.
You're a student too, I gather, right?
Yep, I go to Southeastern Community College in Burlington online.
Okay. And can I ask what you're studying?
Early childhood education. Right now I'm in field experience for school, which means I go into a daycare center once a week for 3 hours a day, but it's kind of hard when I have Haley home.
With Head Start closed, how is Haley's day different?
Well, she's used to a routine at Head Start. It's hard to do those routines because I'm not a person that sits on the floor all the time and does things. I do other things in the house. And when she wasn't able to go back, she started crying. She just wasn't herself. She's just not a happy baby lately. And she's barely sleeping now.
And was Haley was she getting food and supplies there too at Head Start?
Yep, they were paying for food, as in formula, baby food. They paid for cereal. They even paid for diapers. They even provided bottles. They provide everything there. And that helped us out a lot.
Are these tough times?
It's really tough time right now with the Head Start closing, food stamps not available for people, especially with Thanksgiving coming. It's kind of hard to get Thanksgiving dinner if I don't have the food stamps to do it. Because it is a lot of money to get stuff to make for Thanksgiving dinner. The other night, I was pretty much crying myself to sleep, not knowing what's going to happen with, how I'm going to get to daycare when I have Haley all the time, if we're going to be able to do much with food. It's a lot of stress.
How much longer do you think you can live like this?
Probably a couple more weeks.
A couple more weeks, that's not a lot of time.
No. I'm going to see if I can find other pantries and things like that to go to just to get by. But I'm just hoping that they open up so everybody can go back to their lives and be able to eat and survive.
Nicole Hines, Davenport, Iowa. Thanks so much for being with us.
Yep.
Good. There's been some strange sightings in Ireland. Locals in County Clare thought they were hallucinating. As Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, strives to deport more immigrants, it is increasing its surveillance tools. But critics warn these new technologies can violate privacy and civil liberties. NPR's Jude Joffe-Block joins us now. Jude, thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you.
What are some of the tools that ICE agents are using these days?
Well, they've got new contracts to monitor social media and help find people's locations. ICE has also revived a contract with a company called Paragon Solutions, which is known for making spyware that can hack into cell phones. But one big thing that's new is an app ICE and Border Patrol agents have in the field. Social media videos show they're using it to scan people's faces during encounters on the street in an attempt to identify them and figure out if they're deportable.
Jude, how does this app work?
Well, there's still a lot that's unknown, but one of these videos that was first reported by 404 Media was shot outside of Chicago, and you see Border Patrol agents approaching two young people.
Relax. If you just tell me that you were born here and give me an ID, you'll be good.
The young man filming the encounter says he doesn't have ID, and then the agent turns to his colleague and asks,
"Can you do facial?"
"Can you do facial?" he says, and his colleague pulls out his phone and holds it up and appears to scan his face, though it's possibly took a photo. The video was posted by someone claiming to be the cousin of one of the boys who was stopped. The poster didn't respond to a request about the post, but NPR was able to verify exactly where it was taken. We did get a statement from ICE, and they didn't answer questions about this app, but said nothing new here. For years, law enforcement across the nation has leveraged technological innovations to fight crime.
Jude, do we know if this technology can be used to identify essentially everybody, U.S. citizens?
Well, a group of Democratic senators has been trying to get answers to that question and others about this app since September, but haven't gotten them from ICE. They've called on ICE to stop using this technology and reiterated that demand on Monday. My colleague Martin Costi spoke to Democratic Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey.
This type of on-demand surveillance is harrowing, and it should put all of us on guard. It chills speech, it erodes privacy, it ultimately undermines our democracy.
He expressed concern that this tool could be used against people who criticize the government or protesters.
What safeguards exist to try to ensure that these technologies are not abused?
Well, I asked that to ICE and DHS, and we didn't hear back. I also spoke with legal and privacy experts who told me that our current legal and regulatory framework just isn't robust enough to ensure that these kinds of new tools are used with the appropriate oversight and accountability that's really needed. Emily Tucker is with Georgetown Law School's Center on Privacy and Technology.
Immigration powers are being used to justify mass surveillance of everybody.
And she says it's a mistake to think this doesn't affect every one of us.
NPR's Jude Joffe Block, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Fast broadband is widely available in urban areas, but not in many rural communities. Government figures show about 1 in 5 residents don't have reliable access to the internet, and that is despite decades of efforts made to try to reach underserved areas. States were close to putting millions of dollars for broadband to use earlier this year when the Trump administration put out new guidance. Harvest Public Media's Anna Pope has this report.
Antlers, Oklahoma is a small rural town, population just over 2,000. Chris Bailey works at the Oklahoma State University Extension Office in Pushmataha County.
So, Southeast Oklahoma, we are very rural. We have small communities, which I love. Beautiful country. We have a lot of timber industry, a lot of farming.
Bailey helps connect farmers and families to educational resources and knows many of them don't have good internet. That includes Bailey's other office in a neighboring county.
It still is not good enough for us to upgrade our phone systems to an internet-based phone.
For years, federal and state governments have been working to expand internet connection, especially in rural communities. In 2023, Congress allocated about $42 billion for states through the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, or BEAD program. States were gearing up to start those projects, but in June, the Trump administration pressed pause and issued new guidance.
We were days from announcing where we were, and then the rules change.
Mike Sanders, the executive director of the Oklahoma Broadband Office, says his state's plans had to change.
Where we had 8 to 10 months leading up to that, we had 90 days. Everything was condensed in a year's work, I kid you not, into 3 months.
The Trump administration wanted states to consider different types of technology and the lowest cost options.
So we're not going to be looking at sort of the best quality network. We're going to be looking at the least expensive networks.
Drew Gardner is with the Benton Institute for Broadband and Society, which advocates for reliable and affordable internet nationwide. He says fiber optic lines have been the gold standard for years. Now, satellite and fixed wireless are playing a bigger role in state proposals. The National Telecommunications and Information Administration, or NTIA, is the agency overseeing the program. It says Oklahoma would save about $225 million under a new plan in which about 35% of the state's broadband network would be satellite and fixed wireless. Although cheaper to install than fiber, some question whether those other technologies will be as reliable and long-lasting. In Wisconsin, Gail Hike is the Community Development Specialist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She says that state decided to lower its broadband fiber content from 93 to 73%.
We're hearing from communities that are concerned. What's that going to mean for sustainability? What's that going to mean as far as in some topography areas?
Satellite and fixed wireless beam service over radio waves, which can get blocked by trees, mountains, or a bad storm. But because it's cheaper, the whole BEAD program will cost less. NTIA says as states and territories submit new plans, it projects the program's price to drop $17 billion. Each state was given an initial budget amount, and now it's unclear where any leftover money will end up. Gardner says it's up to the NTIA.
They are being very cagey about what they're going to let states do with that money. By law, it is the state's money. We're just waiting for NTIA to say what they can do with it.
In Oklahoma, Sanders says if the decision comes soon, the federal money will help them connect broadband in the last, toughest to reach places.
When it's all said and done, I believe Oklahoma will be very proud with the product that we have produced. However, there's a big however here, everything will now lie with NTIA.
Sanders hopes to have shovels in the ground next spring. For NPR News, I'm Anna Pope in Antlers, Oklahoma.
College football coaching chaos, but boy, it's lucrative. And make room for the tallest man in basketball. Sports reporter Michelle Steele joins us now. Michelle, thanks so much for being with us.
Good morning, Scott.
Good to be with you. Alabama hosts LSU tonight. But a lot of attention is on the person who isn't there, fired coach Brian Kelly. To let him go, they're going to pay him $54 million. And LSU is just the latest university to let go of their coach at enormous cost. The AP reports that buyouts for assistant and head coaches have reached almost $185 million. Now, Michelle, this is going to sound naive, but these are educational institutions, right? In the business of higher learning. And couldn't at least some of all those millions be spent on education or scholarships for students from low-income families?
Yeah, I wish I wasn't laughing at your question, but that's kind of the state of college sports right now, and that's what critics of the game, of the sport, have been talking about for years. It's a professional league masquerading as part of an educational institution. You're right. $54 million to one guy not to coach is wild. You just don't see that in the pros. You could argue that college is more pro than the pros. There's no salary cap. Players can kind of come and go. But as far as LSU is concerned, you know, this new coaching search is going to be watched very closely, not just because the governor is getting involved, but it is considered the best job in college football, at least this cycle. Before Brian Kelly, every coach in the 21st century at LSU won a national championship. He did not win, and that was unacceptable for them.
Interesting in baseball this week, Colorado Rockies, which were the worst team in the major leagues this past season, are turning to Paul DePodesta to help turn things around. Now, he is the same person who pioneered the use of analytics with the Oakland A's. He was partly portrayed, it was an amalgam of the characters by Jonah Hill in the film Moneyball. Boy, I sense a sequel, but he has to help turn the Rockies around.
Yeah, Moneyball 2, Electric Boogaloo. How do you go from the worst team in football to the worst team in baseball and expect to turn everything around? But that's what they want Paul DePodesta to do.
Right, he's been with the Cleveland Browns, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they want. He was their chief strategy officer. Lives in California, but works in Cleveland technically. He was made famous by that Michael Lewis book and, of course, that movie. He was that baseball stats nerd, found value in places where other people weren't looking. He hasn't been in baseball for 10 years, and the Rockies, from what I'm hearing, are about 10 years behind in the analytics department. So this is the ultimate analytics test because you're a baseball fan, Scott. Coors Field. The air's so thin there, sometimes routine fly balls can turn into home runs real quick. But if he can make the Rockies successful, maybe he should get an Oscar and a Nobel Prize for physics if he figures that out.
Oh, what a nice thought. And finally, college basketball this week. A record, Olivier Rioux from Quebec took the floor for the Florida Gators to become the tallest college basketball player of all time. He is 7'9". I mean, it's the only play the Gators need is just to, say, stand into the hoop, Olivier. We'll get you the ball, stuff it in, and we'll do it all over again.
Sure, slam dunk each time. The hoop is only 10 feet. He's almost 8 feet tall. He's 7'9". He is 8 inches taller, Scott, than Shaq. His primary defensive move is just to look down.
Yeah.
Forget boxing out. He just needs to stand next to guys. I've actually procured every opposing team's pregame scouting report, and it says avoid the guy who is almost 8 feet tall. He's developmental. But fun to watch for Florida fans.
All right. Sports reporter Michelle Steele, talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
See you next time.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Jarl and Pamela Mohn, thanking the people who make public radio great every day and also those who listen.
Jamaica is racing to reopen its tourism industry after Hurricane Melissa slammed into the island last week. The Category 5 storm caused widespread damage at some of the country's most popular destinations. And with the start of peak tourism season just weeks away, will the island be open for business? Edmund Bartlett is Jamaica's Minister of Tourism and joins us now. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Scott.
How bad was the damage to tourism spots by Hurricane Melissa?
Well, the hurricane hit the western quadrant of the island. Overall, just about 60% perhaps of our tourism assets were affected by the hurricane. The extent to which the damages were done range from extreme in one instance, in only one instance, to moderate and in a much lighter way.
May I ask about some areas specifically that are familiar to tourists, such as Montego Bay and Negril?
Montego Bay was more severely hit than all the other destinations in Jamaica. Negril is in relatively good nick. Port Antonio is absolutely not touched. Kingston and some areas along the south coast were in good nick.
Minister Bartlett, how important is tourism to Jamaica's economy?
Tourism is 30% of our GDP, but its implications are deeper and wider. In addition to knowing that tourism provides more than 55% of the foreign exchange that we generate, also employs 20% of the labor force in the country. So it's hugely important to the economy of Jamaica.
What needs to be done to receive tourists in a few weeks?
Right. So the good news all around is that our airports are working. We have established a timeline for the full opening of the destination for December 15. A number of our hotels are now open and are scheduling for opening. So by the time we get to the 15th, more than 70-80% of all our room stock and attractions will be available.
What's the biggest challenge you face right now?
The biggest challenge we face is to get our workers back with their physical assets back intact, their houses, to ensure that they have water and light and all the amenities that will make them able to produce at the highest level. And that's a big, strong mission, and we're going after it with a lot of energy and resources.
You sound very hopeful.
Oh, yes, because we've worked hard at it. We have a recovery task force that is working daily, minutely. The government has responded extremely well to enable the reconstruction activities One of the things that we want to emphasize in all of this is resilience. We're not just building back. We're building back better, and we're building back with the knowledge of the technology that is required to deal with the elements of weather and climatic change that we're experiencing.
Is there something you learned through this experience of Hurricane Melissa that you'll take into the future?
Oh, yes. For one, we have to review where our settlements are. We have to manage better to ensure they're protected and safeguarded against flooding and erosion. We know, for example, that we have to look at resilience in energy and particularly the distribution of energy. We're looking at entombing the cables underground for light and power distribution. So we remove all those light poles that are now susceptible to the effect of the winds that come with these weather conditions. We also have to look at even our building codes with a knowledge of the type of hurricanes that are likely to be a feature of the future.
Edmund Bartlett is Jamaica's Minister of Tourism. Thanks so much for being with us. Good season ahead to you, sir.
Thank you, Scott. And I want to close by just saying to the audience and everybody, I know that you all feel the pain with us and you empathize. The greatest way for you to continue to
time of the science fiction writer Jules Verne, people have dreamed of being able to live underwater. In the 1960s and 70s, the U.S. and French governments were among those who created undersea habitats, where researchers could live and work for extended periods. It's been almost 40 years, though, since the last undersea habitat went into the water. But NPR's Greg Allen reports on a new one, created by a company with ambitious plans for underwater research and exploration.
The company is called Deep. It was founded 4 years ago in the United Kingdom with a goal, it says, of making humans more aquatic. It unveiled its first step in that process recently in Miami. It's Vanguard, an undersea habitat where a crew of 4 can live and work for a week or more without resurfacing. From the outside, it's a big yellow steel tank, about 40 feet long. I go inside with Deep's Roger Garcia.
This is what's known as the wet porch, where you're standing right now. This is where people come in and out.
Below us, covered by hatch, is the habitat's moon pool. Once Vanguard is deployed underwater, anchored to the seafloor, this door to the ocean will remain open.
As long as the air pressure in here remains a little bit above the water pressure or equal to the water pressure, the air-water interface is going to stay below where you're standing right now.
To get to the habitat's living quarters and workspace, we go feet first through the open hatch.
Good job. Yeah. Very good about your heads there.
It's not big, but it's an economical design, not unlike an underwater RV. Bunks fold down to a comfortable seating area. There's a small bathroom and windows on each end so that people in the habitat can keep an eye on divers working outside. It's functional, not fancy, but Garcia is proud Vanguard is almost ready. Before working with Deep, he spent much of his career on the only other undersea habitat still in operation, Aquarius, a research station in Key Largo. Aquarius is nearly 40 years old. In his time working there, Garcia says he became disappointed as he saw interest and funding decline.
And then here comes Deep. Just the thought of keeping the legacy going, of living underwater and also making humans aquatic in the future, to me, it just made me happy.
Deep is a privately owned company with an ambitious goal to establish a permanent human presence underwater. Former hedge fund manager Sean Wolpert is a board member.
Our mission is getting eyeballs beneath the surface of the ocean to allow humans to go down on the seabed, be productive across many different tasks, but also do it in such a way where it helps to de-risk that entire process.
For researchers and others who dive for extended periods, an undersea habitat provides the gift of time. With immediate access to the water, Garcia says people staying in the habitat can work up to 9 hours a day.
So for them, that's like a game changer, because they will tell you that 10 days of work inside an underwater habitat and the data they can gather from that research could equate to 6 months of work in some cases.
Vanguard is a prototype. Deep says it will be placed at an as-yet unidentified location 60 feet below the surface. Chief Technology Officer Norman Smith says Deep has already begun work on a larger undersea habitat, that can be expanded to provide space for a dozen or more.
The vision for the company is a roadmap of larger habitats, modular habitats, to be installed in oceans all over the world.
It's a bold vision, but perhaps not more outlandish than a privately funded space exploration company might have seemed a few decades ago. Deep board member Sean Walpert.
I've been in very high-level strategic sovereign discussions about creating a community on the seabed. So having 130 people living on the seabed by 2035.
Deep says the first step, getting its prototype Vanguard deployed and operational, should happen by the end of the year. Greg Allen, NPR News, Miami.
Let me tell you about Gabriel Dax. He's a Cold War-era travel writer who goes all over the world. And that nicely positions him to also be a British secret agent. But he also gets envelopes of cash from the KGB, which MI6 thinks is just fine, keeps his cover. British intelligence sends Gabriel to Guatemala on a friendly errand for the CIA, but the trip has an unforeseen lethal result, and that will pluck a wire inside Gabriel when he's sent to West Berlin to find termites, traitors in spy slang, shortly before the visit of President John F. Kennedy. The Predicament is the second novel in a planned Gabriel Dax trilogy by William Boyd, the honored British novelist, who joins us now from London. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here, Scott. Thank you.
This is the second book in the trilogy, as we said. Is Gabriel by now more of a spy than a travel writer?
Yes, reluctantly so, I think. He's discovered he's actually quite good at the job. He has resources and he has instincts that actually suit his spying life, but he's constantly moaning about how it's taking him away from his real life as a writer. But he's getting in deeper and deeper.
Those cash payments he takes from the KGB with permission, does he declare them on his tax filings with Inland Revenue?
I suspect not. He's instructed by his mysterious and alluring MI6 handler, Faith Green, to spend the money very obviously. So he's bought a cottage, he's bought a motorbike, he's buying paintings. He's just profiting from this, as you said, KGB cover that he has. He's meant to be a termite, a mole himself, but of course it gets extra complicated.
And let me ask you about his relationship with his handler. That phrase becomes a little fraught. From British intelligence, Faith Green, they can also be involved, can't they?
Yes, I mean, there is an emotional dimension to their relationship as well as a professional one. And in fact, it's not too much to say that Gabriel is smitten by Faith. And she rather exploits that, though I think she also enjoys the dalliance. But there's always a source of worry that somehow things are not what they seem. And I think Gabriel's life can be described as a persistent erosion of trust, and it makes him more and more anxious.
Gabriel meets with a Guatemalan trade union leader and a former priest known as Padre Tiago. And the Padre expects to get a message from Gabriel from Fidel Castro. Gabriel doesn't have any such message. Is this a lapse or intentional?
No, it's a setup. Gabriel is being used because Padre Tiago, who might win the next presidential election, is in hiding, and the powers that be that don't like him want to know where he is. And in fact, Gabriel is a kind of, he's a lure in a way to find out where Padre Tiago is hiding. He thinks he's going to interview Padre Tiago, but in fact, there's a far more nefarious objective underway, and it has a bad outcome.
The story moves on to West Germany, following that thread from Guatemala. The CIA does seem to have a case against President Kennedy, don't they?
I am a conspiracy theorist when it comes to the assassination of JFK, but it depends what conspiracy you choose. There are various possible explanations, but my theory, which I outline in more detail in the novel, is that there were rogue elements of the CIA, discontented operatives, particularly after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. One forgets that JFK and Bobby Kennedy were not universally popular at the time. That And the whole Guatemala issue is to do with regime change and destabilization in Central America, which the CIA were heavily involved with the mafia as well. So I take these elements that are there as potential explanations of what happened and stitch them together to make in my opinion, quite a convincing conspiracy about how JFK was assassinated.
Is that a literary exercise for you, or what?
Yes, it's a literary exercise because I'm a realistic novelist, and I want the worlds of my novels, which are fictional, to be as authentic and as plausible as possible. And throughout my fiction, over the years, I've always introduced real events, real historical people, in order to give it that kind of ring of truth, or to make the reader sometimes think, is this true, or is this something that Boyd has made up? I like that doubt to be implanted in the reader's mind.
What's it like to spend so much time in the 1960s for you?
The 1960s coincided pretty much with my teenage years, and so I have vivid memories of them, and vivid memories of the events that took place. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. I remember the assassination of JFK. And so when revisiting them for these novels is a kind of time travel for me. When I talk about the clothes people wore, the drinks they drank, the meals they ate, I'm tapping into my own memories of that period. And it's, it is a long time ago now, but it's still very vivid to me. And it's a perfect place, perfect time to set a spy novel, because the Cold War was at its height, and the good guys and the bad guys were, in theory, clearly defined.
I figured out while reading this novel, you and I are the same age within days of each other.
Oh, right.
And we've both grown up with the character of the suave British spy.
Yes.
Why has that lasted so much? Let me tell you my theory, okay?
Okay.
All right. Ian Fleming and some other people needed to make up something following, Britain's darkest days in which they prevailed, but they wanted to be back on top of the world, hence 07.
Yes, but I think you've got to separate 007 from the more serious spy novels. My theory is that one of the few things we British are good at is betraying our country. And
Well, the Cambridge Five, you're thinking.
Yeah, the Cambridge Five. And I think the obsession with spying and spy novels is to do with this notion, particularly in World War II and post-war Cold War, the fact that we had so many traitors at the heart of our establishment, and they were well-educated, middle-class, privileged people. I mean, Kim Philby, the super spy, was a Soviet double agent at the heart of MI6 for over 20 years. And I think that's where the suavity comes in, that it's not some guy with a grudge. These are privileged people who intellectually decide to work for the Russians, and that's an abiding fascination. I don't think anybody has fully explained why these men consistently and for such a long time were traitors.
William Boyd's new novel, The Predicament, and there's another one to come. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here. Thank you very much, Scott.
In Joachim Trier's new film, Sentimental Value, Gustav Borg, an esteemed Norwegian director, offers a popular actress the starring role in a rich family drama. But she says no. We can't work together, she tells him. We don't communicate. The director, played by Stellan Skarsgård, is her father. Sentimental Value is Norway's entry for Best Feature Film at the next Academy Awards. It also stars Renate Reinsve and Elle Fanning. And a caution, this conversation includes mention of suicide. Stellan Skarsgård, one of the world's most revered actors, joins us now from Los Angeles. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Gustav, the father and director, doesn't know his two daughters very well, does he?
No, he doesn't. I mean, he was a bit of a absent father due to divorce, among other things. He wants to reach them and he wants to have contact with them again, but he does not know how to do it. He's extremely clumsy. He's fumbling his way through it, and it becomes comic, but it also becomes very sad.
Is it a part of him that hopes that making a film will not only make a good film, but repair a relationship?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's the fun thing with playing a character is often to play him as unconscious of most important things in life. It might be so, but he does not know it because he is desperate to do the film, and he goes to another actress and tries to make it with her.
Well, and I want to ask you about that because when his daughter says no, he winds up offering the role to a famous American actress, Rachel Kemp, played by Elle Fanning. There are unexpected flashes of what I'll just call tough humor.
Mm-hmm.
The footstool thing. Can I get you to recount that for us?
He's showing her around in the house, which has a very important role in the film, by the way. And he shows the room where his mother committed suicide by hanging herself. And he puts a stool there, and she's going to play the mother, and she's going to put the stool and climb up and hang herself. And he says that the stool is the actual stool that his mother used. And she goes, oh no, oh God, and all that kind of stuff. And then later he reveals that, no, it was it's just an IKEA stool, and it wasn't that one at all. Of course, it's a joke. It's a joke at her expense in a way, but not so bad.
Is it okay for people to laugh at that in the film?
It's okay for them to laugh at everything.
In her own way, is Nora as engrossed in her theater career as her father was in his movie career?
Yeah, she is. They're both artists. That's why the conflict is in a way that can artists, do they all have problems coping with and compromising with real life and family life and children and stuff? Yeah, probably they do, because their work is not only their work, it's their identity. And if you have to compromise with your identity, you don't become yourself anymore. And it's an unsolvable problem.
And you have several children in the film business, don't you?
Yeah, I got 6 in the business, I think, and 2 not in the business.
Any of this remind you of anything personal?
That's exactly what my son said. My second son said when he's seen the film. Anything will remind you of something personal? And I said, no, of course not. But I had to rethink that. Of course, it does remind me of things. I have been a present father much more than Gustav Borg has. And basically since 1989, when I stopped working at the Royal Dramatic Theatre, I've been spending 8 out of 12 months at home, and only been shooting for 4 months a year. So I've been changing diapers for 8 months a year. You can say that I've been present in that sense, but you don't know how much you've been present in mentally, because you might have been distracted. And also, if you have 8 children, you have 8 different individuals. Some of them need more attention than others, and some of them need more encouragement than others. And so I understand what he was referring to, my son.
And did you draw your portrayal of Gustav, the director, out of any of the directors with whom you've worked?
No, I didn't. The instinct was immediately, oh, who shall I choose? This is the moment for revenge, and I can make fun of a director like that. But I didn't, because I needed him to be very sensible director, very smart director, and capable of doing very refined and nuanced psychological work with an actress, because he's good at it in his work, but he's not good at it with his daughters. That's the sort of not uncommon thing, because your art is more controllable.
I've read you had a stroke in recent years.
Yeah, I had it 3 years ago.
Your performance in this film is so strong. May I ask, did you have to learn how to do anything differently?
I can't remember my lines anymore. That and I have some language problems, but that was helped by having an earpiece and a prompter in my ear. And it's not as convenient as you think. Oh, he says all the lines, so you just have to repeat them. It doesn't work like that. He or she has to say the lines very fast, very neutral, and at the same time as your co-actor is saying his lines. It's elaborate because to find the rhythm, to work out the rhythm of the scene.
As we said, you're one of the most respected actors in the world, but I didn't know until reading up that you've never been nominated for an Oscar.
Well, actually, I think there's been one male Swede who has been nominated, and that's Max von Sydow. He's been nominated twice, and that's it.
If you're nominated now, what would that mean to you?
I don't know. I guess I'll go on with my life as I've always done. I'm managed to reach the age of 74 without an Oscar, so I could probably go on. But it would be an enormous honor, of course, and I would be much more happy than I will admit.
What's ahead for you?
Well, I got to do this Oscars campaign now. Then I'll wait and see. I haven't. There's not that many really good scripts for old people. Well, if a younger man writes about an old man, he writes them like with a cane. I got to wait for a role that's interesting, that is not sort of Alzheimer.
Well, I hope it comes soon, because you're a lot of fun to talk to.
Well, let's talk again then.
I hope so. Stellan Skarsgård stars in the new film, Sentimental Value, in theaters now. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for calling.
And if you or someone you know may be considering suicide or is in crisis, please call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.